Disaster will eventually come for you. Imagine this. You're in an elevator and it suddenly drops 10 stories. Or your car rolls over in a crash. You end up upside down in a ravine. You're completely unharmed. But what happens next? For some people, it's a beginning of fear and avoidance. For others, it's the start of living their best life. Which one would you choose? Now think about those scenarios. You're fine, but the stress, the trauma of the incidents, they've changed you. You can't even get in an elevator anymore for fear it might drop. You panic when you think about driving. I've been around a lot of victims during the course of my career and life in general. Victims of theft, robbery with a firearm. I've been around a lot of people who came very close to serious injury or death. I'm going to talk about how and why being involved in what's often referred to as a traumatic incident, it can be a good thing. I'm going to reference a movie starring Brad Pitt, cool actor, and how he made sense about experiencing some trauma or staring into the face of death can be one of the best things that could ever happen to a person. People often feel the need to put themselves into a tragedy, even if they weren't directly involved. So they hear about it after the fact, maybe on the news, on the radio, but they feel some sort of connection, some sort of trauma because they're familiar with the area. So for example, there's a bad accident on the highway because some construction equipment fell out of a truck, caused an accident, seriously injuring people, or a construction crane, it fell 30 stories, crashed into the sidewalk below. A sidewalk you walk on almost every day on your commute to work. You can't believe it. You almost collapse thinking about how often you walk in that exact spot. You need to take some time off work because just the thought of it. Or let's say that a bus loses control and drives off the highway, ends up in a ditch. You take buses every day, sometimes that same route. You're horrified. Some people feel the need to put themselves in the shoes of those who were there and tell everyone they know that they walk along that exact sidewalk every day. They take that bus. They tell their family, I could have been there. It could have been me. Sometimes they talk themselves into a frenzy. They tell everybody at home, everybody at work. But then they take it a step further, saying they almost died. I could have been on that bus. I could have been killed. I walk that route every day. That crane could have landed right down on top of me. I almost died. And when they're talking to people, telling them about it, they expect those same people, usually family or friends, to also act as if they almost died. Oh my God, I can't believe it. How are you feeling now? Are you okay? Can I get you anything? They weren't even there. And if they don't act that way, if their family friends aren't overly dramatic about something that didn't even happen, they get accused of not caring. You can't just brush it off. Yeah, you walk there all the time. The crane could have hit you, but it didn't. Let's go out for dinner. And then you're in trouble. I think that by constantly playing into these things, you could be doing more harm than good. You could be prolonging their real or perceived trauma. And I say real because I can't write off people's feelings here. That wouldn't be fair. I'm just adding a different point of view. My point of view. I understand that human beings all have our own way of dealing with things, okay? Our own way of processing events. It wouldn't be right for me to discount people's genuine feelings. But having been through my fair share of dangerous situations my entire life, both as a police officer and in my personal life, I also know that people can be talked into feeling or thinking things that never really even cross their mind. Some people, I'm sure they're going to come at me here and say I'm not being sensitive to the feelings of the victim or potential victim. I'm being dismissive. Everybody experiences trauma differently. I said that already. No kidding. I know that. But the default position shouldn't be pushing victimhood, almost to the point where they feel like there might be something wrong with them because they're actually totally cool with the situation or what took place. Like I said earlier, some people talk themselves into a frenzy. They're afraid to leave their house after a while. There's a movie out there called Fight Club. Great movie. In one scene, Tyler Durden, one of the main characters played by Brad Pitt, he takes a convenience store worker out to the back of his store and threatens to take his life. He's got a gun pointed at the back of his head when he's on his knees. He tells him he's going to die.
Raymond, you're going to die.
He later lets him go, and we find out that there wasn't even any bullets in the gun. His friend, another main character played by Edward Norton, great actor, he challenges him on what he did. Tyler shrugs it off. He tells him that tomorrow will be the most beautiful day of this person's life. His breakfast will taste better than any meal he's ever tasted.
Come on, this isn't funny. That wasn't funny. What the fuck was the point of that?
Tomorrow will be the most beautiful day of Raymond Chaos's life. His breakfast will taste better than any meal you and I ever tasted.
And that is so bang on. This guy, the convenience store worker, he was under the impression he was going to die. He was going to be murdered. And he wasn't. Do you know what that does to a person? I know some people who have faced death, okay? No exaggeration either. Sickness or unfortunate experiences. Listen, they're different people now. They're better. Some people, if they've made it through the other side, they no longer sweat the small stuff, but you can't mess with them. They don't have time for anybody's bull. They're laser focused on life, on their goals, on their family, things that matter. It messes with you in the best possible way. The same exact experience can have two outcomes, but it depends on their mind frame. And it also depends on the reactions of the people around them after the fact. Yeah, his food will taste better and he'll appreciate it. And think about this. Never mind being too scared to get into an elevator. The chances of an elevator dropping is so extremely slim. So the chances of it happening twice to the same person, I mean, now's the best time of your life. You should be taking an elevator. The odds are in your favor. I got to share a personal story here, okay? Because I do every video. When I was a kid, I was in Beavers and Cubs and Scouts and all that. And I loved it. We would always go camping and hiking. On one of our outings, I don't know where we're going. It was a long time ago, but all the kids were in the bus and it was a narrow road. There was a dead deer in the middle of the road, blocking the way. It was very narrow. So one of the dads on the bus, he got out and he grabbed the deer by the antlers, dragged it off the road, and that was it. We kept going. I never thought anything of it. I grew up in a family of hunters and everything else, never even gave it a second thought. Nobody there did that weekend. All the kids, everybody thought it was fine. Well, a week or two later, we found out that there was a bunch of parents complaining. They wanted this guy kicked off the troop. They were complaining because apparently their kids were horrified. And I remember thinking back even then that nobody was horrified. It was actually completely acceptable what took place. What was supposed to happen? What was he supposed to do? He grabbed a dead animal and dragged it off the road. It's a fantastic lesson in life. It's sad, but these things happen. And in all reality, it's at the right age. These I say kids, but listen, they're all 10 and 12 years old. They're at the right age to experience these things. But their parents talked them into this thing being a completely horrific experience. And I know that it was their parents that talked them into it because they were friends of mine and we chatted about it at school. We all thought it was the coolest thing in the world. Experiencing trauma and the challenges of life, listen, that's unavoidable. But how we frame those experiences, how we process them, how we let them shape us, that's entirely up to us. I'm not dismissing real feelings or ignoring the need for help when it's genuinely needed, okay? It's about recognizing that not every incident has to define us as a victim. The reality is, most of us are tougher than we think. We just need to give ourselves a permission to move forward, to reframe the narrative. Being a victim of circumstance doesn't mean you have to live as a victim. So maybe instead of asking, why me after a close call, maybe a better question is, what can I learn from this? Or how can I grow? That's very mature. Maybe just picture your buddy behind you saying, that was freaking awesome. Listen, at the end of the day, surviving those moments can either paralyze you or empower you. It's just another perspective, okay? Listen, before I finish, seek help. If you need it, there's no shame in that at all. Talk to somebody. I've reached out. I've seek help numerous occasions, and there's nothing wrong with that at all. Thank you very much for watching this video. Be safe out there. Look after one another, and I'll see you in the next video.